Have you ever felt butterflies in your stomach? To arrive at home and find something that turns your world upside down? Imagine that you work far away, dreaming of returning to your little corner. But one day, the door of your house hides a secret that will hurt you in a way you never imagined. I'm Jack, and I've lived through this. My story is about the pain of a betrayal that made me take a deep breath and plan the most epic revenge. Stay with me, because you'll discover how the truth, no matter how hard it is, can be the first step towards your freedom. And now, let's dive headfirst into this story that will keep you hooked from beginning to end. But hey, before we continue our journey, have you clicked the subscribe button yet? Don't waste any time. Click here quickly, because what's coming in the next videos on the channel will leave you speechless. I guarantee you won't want to miss out. Hey, my name is Jack da Estrada, and I've been driving these highways in the United States for over 20 years. I'm one of those hardcore truck drivers, who breathes the smell of diesel and has the horn in my blood. But today, I'm not going to talk about heavy cargo, flat tires, or traffic tickets. Today, I'm going to tell you a story that hurt more than driving 1,000 miles with a broken suspension dot. It was supposed to be just a day off at home, after almost 2 weeks away, crossing the country. But what I saw that day? Oh, it destroyed everything I had built for so long. I was coming from Florida, pulling a load to New York. Good freight, payment on time, everything in order. In this life of a trucker, you learn to appreciate every second at home, Every hug from your wife, every coffee made with love. Sarah and I were celebrating another year of marriage, and I wanted to surprise her. I postponed the return date for the weekend, but I managed to bring the delivery forward. I grabbed a package from the glove compartment, a gold necklace that she always looked at in the shop windows when we passed by the mall. Boy, I was so happy. My heart was almost in my mouth, like a kid going on a first date. I parked the truck in the shipping company's yard early, without even telling anyone. I wanted to see her look of surprise when I showed up at her door. Late, I took a taxi and even stopped at a flower shop in Elmwood, and I bought some red roses. I spent a lot, but women deserve these things, right? When the taxi pulled up in front of my house, everything looked normal from the outside. The curtains were closed and the gate was locked. It was 3 in the afternoon, and it was really hot here in New York. I paid the driver and stood there, just looking at that place I had always dreamed of when I was driving alone in the middle of the night. I slowly opened the gate with my key, already imagining the surprise, ... I was going to tiptoe in, leave the flowers on the table, call her from somewhere ... So, have you ever wondered if something like this could happen to you? Or have you ever known someone who has been through a heartbreaking situation? Tell me in the comments. I read everything and we can help each other. That's when I heard a strange noise coming from inside. A man's laughter. My heart froze right then, It's that feeling when your whole body already knows something before your head understands it. It was exactly like that. I approached slowly, as if I didn't want to make any noise. The living room window had the curtain half open. I could see a piece of the sofa. And it was there, guys, on that same sofa that I had bought with so much effort, that I saw Sarah in the arms of another man. The two of them there, in the greatest intimacy, inside the house, enemy territory. The guy was a local acquaintance, a guy named Mark, a mechanic at a garage near the gas station. He was also married and had a family. The world simply fell apart. Felt like I had been hit in the back of the head. The flowers slipped from my hand and fell to the ground. I stood there, unable to move, watching through the crack in the window everything I never, in a million years, imagined I would see. The woman I loved, who I had supported with my sweat on the road, was there, betraying my trust, ending our story. I don't know how long I stood there, paralyzed. I could have gone in, made a scene, attacked the guy. But something inside me told me to hold back, not to lower myself, not to show that I was destroyed. I swallowed hard, took a deep breath, turned around, and left without making a sound. I walked back to the courtyard, walking like a zombie through the streets of Queens. The gift was still in my pocket, weighing a ton. My cell phone rang a couple of times. It was her, probably calling to find out where I was when I was coming home, pretending she missed me. I didn't answer. I let it ring. When I got to the yard, my colleagues realized something was wrong. "So, Jack, weren't you going to stay home today?" one of them asked. I shook my head. Change of plans was all I could say. I climbed into the cab of my truck, locked the door, and stared into space. It was the longest night of my life. Lying on the bunk, unable to sleep, the scene repeated itself in my head. 15 years of marriage thrown away. The promises, the plans, everything shattered. And while the pain tightened my chest, something else was being born inside. A plan. She wasn't going to get away with this for free. She wasn't going to. She was going to feel what I was feeling. She was going to taste the same poison ... but my way. This story was just beginning. My friends on the road. And if you've ever been through something similar, hold on tight, because what's coming next will show you that truck drivers can be gentle, but they're never stupid. And so, dawn broke. I was back on the road. I picked up a return load to Dallas, Texas. I didn't even care about the cost of shipping. I just needed to drive, feel the wind on my face, leave the dust behind. The image of that scene wouldn't leave my head. It was like a tattoo burned into my thoughts. Every time the truck turned, there she was again, Sarah, in the arms of another man. The worst part wasn't even seeing the betrayal. It was remembering everything I'd done for her in these 20 years on the road. How many times had I stayed up all night driving just so I could send her a little extra money at the end of the month? How many birthday parties had I missed for my nephews? How many Christmases alone in the cab, eating cold lunches at some gas station in the middle of nowhere in this country? And all for what? To build a home, to give to my wife a good life. My Peterbilt was swallowing up the asphalt, and I was there, with my heart broken into 1,000 pieces. The phone wouldn't stop ringing. It was Sarah trying to talk to me, the messages arriving one after the other. "Honey, where are you? Why didn't you tell me you were going back on the road? I'm worried." Worried? She should have been worried. I left it at that. She should have been there waiting for an answer, just like I've been waiting for respect all these years. I-40 was passing by the window, that interstate that I know like the back of my hand. The strong sun was beating down on the asphalt. I stopped at a gas station to fill up and get something to eat. Old Man Joe, the owner of the restaurant that every trucker in this region knows, immediately noticed that something was wrong. "Jack, your face looks different. Did something happen?" I almost came clean right there. Almost told him everything, let it all out. But I swallowed hard. This pain was only mine for now. I said that it was just fatigue, that the road was getting to me. Old Man Joe didn't insist, but he made it clear that he was there if I needed to talk. I got back in the cab with a black coffee in my hand. That's when the cell phone rang again. It was her. This time I answered it, but I was speechless, just listening. Jack, are you there? Why did you leave without telling me? I thought you were going to stay home for it. Least a day." Her voice sounded worried, but all I could think about was the falseness. How can a person cheat and then pretend nothing happened? How can you look into the eyes of someone who gave you your whole life and lie like that? I answered dryly, without emotion. I picked up a return load. I have to work. But honey, you didn't even tell me anything. I had prepared a special dinner. I made that fried chicken you like. Fried chicken? She still had the nerve to talk about food while I had been driving for 15 days without stopping, and she was serving a banquet to her lover inside the car at my house. No, my couch. I felt my blood boiling. I have to go. I'm driving. I hung up without waiting for an answer. The phone rang a few more times, but I let it ring into the void. The road went by, mile after mile, and my head was racing. It wasn't just anger that I felt. It was a mixture of disappointment, sadness, humiliation. I, Jack, respected throughout the square, known for being a man of my word, was being made a fool of in my own home. That was when the plan began to take shape in my head. I wasn't going to lower myself. I wasn't going to make a scene. I wasn't going to be ignorant and turn into a criminal because of a woman who didn't know how to value what she had. I was going to be smarter, more calculating. She was going to experience firsthand what it's like to be betrayed. She was going to taste the same poison ... but my way. In the back of a truck, in times of solitude, we learn to think. A lot. There are drivers who listen to music. There are those who talk on the radio. There are those who stop at every gas station on the highway. I have always been one of those who think, analyze, and observe. And now, this characteristic would serve me to get revenge. She would feel the bitter taste of betrayal, but it would not be just any betrayal. It would be calculated, planned, thought out down to the smallest detail, because I could even be a simple truck driver with calloused hands and sunburned skin, but I have never been a fool. I delivered the cargo to Dallas with my mind far from there. The dispatcher even complained that I was inattentive, that I almost made a mistake with the documentation. I apologized and went on my way. I didn't tell anyone what had happened. This story was just mine, for now. That night, I parked the truck at a roadside gas station and stared up at the stars. I remembered when I met Sarah over 20 years ago at a county fair in Springfield, Illinois. She was all beautiful, in a summer dress. I was already working as a truck driver's assistant. It was love at first sight. We had built a life together, brick by brick, and now it was all shattered. I cried there alone in the passenger seat, where no one could see me. Men cry too, my friends. I cried with anger, with sadness, with disappointment. But I dried my tears and decided this story would not end like this. Sarah would understand what it means to betray someone who truly loves you. I would feel the same tightness in my chest, the same shortness of breath, the same despair. I started the engine and continued on my way. The night was getting late and the road seemed endless, just like the pain I felt. But now I had a goal, a plan taking shape, and that gave me the strength to keep going. Because on the road of life, my friends, those who have no direction end up lost on the side of the road. And I, Jack, might have been hurt, but I still knew very well where I was going. And it was with this certainty that I continued to travel for days, accepting any freight that appeared, Atlanta and Denver, because my head was racing, planning every detail of what would come next. I spent almost 2 weeks running around nonstop, accepting any freight that came my way. Kansas City, no Missouri, a Salt Lake City in Utah. I was going wherever work called me. My head was working like the engine of a new truck. On the outside, everything was normal. On the inside, I was planning every detail of what I was going to do. Many people think that a truck driver is just a brute who drives, but anyone who travels this world knows that the road teaches more than any school. Sarah kept calling me and sending me messages. I didn't answer much, just the basics. I sent the money to my account, as I always did. I pretended nothing had happened. She even asked if everything was okay, saying I was different. I just said it was because I was tired, that the journey was tough, and that I would be home soon. It was all a lie. I was gathering information, collecting evidence, tying up the loose ends. I started paying attention to her social media. I was never really into internet stuff, but now I was keeping an eye on everything. That's how I found out who this guy was. His name was Mark, a mechanic at a garage near my house. He was also married, the father of a boy of about 8 years old. In the photos, he was always with his family, smiling. But in his free time, he was tucked away on my couch with his woman. One day, I parked the truck at a gas station. Oklahoma City and I looked at Mark's photos. He had the address of his garage, his full name, everything there, easy to find. Anger was rising again, but I took a deep breath. I wasn't going to do anything stupid. I was going to be smarter than him. I found out that his wife, a woman named Susan, owned a small grocery store in town, a convenience store, you know. A beautiful, hard-working woman by the looks of it. And she didn't deserve what was happening to her, just like me. That's when the second part of the plan came to me. I returned to New York 3 days later with a load of food. I delivered everything properly, and instead of going home or to the yard, I went straight to the grocery store. I parked the truck on a side street and walked. My heart was pounding. My throat was dry. It's not easy to go up to a woman and tell her husband that she's cheating on you with your wife. The little supermarket was small, but tidy. Susan was at the cash register, helping a lady. I waited in a corner, pretending to look at some merchandise. When the customer left, I came closer. She looked at me with that business smile of someone who serves their customers well. I'm not going to lie to you, it was hard. The words got stuck in my throat. How do you tell something like that? I started slowly, introduced myself, said I was a truck driver. I kept beating around the bush until I couldn't help it anymore. I had to tell the truth. I saw her eyes fill with tears as I told her. I showed her the proof I had, the messages, the photos I had taken secretly from my window. She didn't want to believe me, but deep down, she already suspected. She said that Mark had been acting strange for months, arriving late, making excuses about extra work at the garage. Susan cried, but she didn't make a fuss. She seemed like a strong woman, the kind of woman who life has taught to hold back her tears. She asked why I was telling her that, what I wanted. That's when I explained my plan. I didn't just want to break up with Sarah. I wanted her to feel the bitter taste of betrayal. I wanted her to suffer the same as I was suffering. And for that, I needed Susan's help. At first, she hesitated. She said she couldn't fake it, that she wasn't an actress. But when I told her the details, how we had been made fools of, anger flared in her eyes too. We agreed to meet the next day at a restaurant outside the city to work out the details. Walked back to the truck with a lighter heart. For the first time since I had seen that horrible scene, I felt like I was in control of the situation. I was no longer the poor guy, the betrayed one. I was the guy with a plan. That night, I parked the truck in the usual yard. My colleagues came over to chat, ask about my trips, and tell stories. I acted normal, as if nothing had happened. One of them even asked if I wasn't going home to see the boss. I said I would the next day, that I was too tired, and that I was going to sleep in the cab like I always did. Only this time, I wasn't dreaming about Sarah. I was dreaming about the plan I was hatching. Revenge was going to be served slowly, with care. The next day, I dressed up better than usual. I went to the barber, trimmed my beard, and put on a nice shirt that I saved for special occasions. A colleague even joked and asked if I was going to get married again. Oh, if only he knew. I met Susan at the restaurant we had arranged on the side of the road that leads from Queens. She had also gotten ready. She was even prettier in person than in her pictures. We sat at a table in the distance and began to plan. The idea was simple, but it had to be executed well. We were going to pretend we were having an affair. No making out, no kissing. That wasn't what it was about. It was just to show everyone that we were dating, that something was going on. And let the town talk. Let the gossip spread until it reached Sarah and Mark's ears. The first part of the plan, the photos. Susan took out her cell phone and took some selfies with me right there, inside the supermarket. I even smiled, something I hadn't done in a while. Then we went out and took some more in front of the store, as if we were on a casual outing. She posted everything on social media, with those mysterious captions that women know how to do. New times, new beginnings. Life surprises us when we least expect it. That same afternoon, I called Sarah, saying that I was going to be away for a few more days, that I had picked up an urgent shipment to Miami, Florida. She got all snippy on the phone, saying she missed me and wanted to see me. I swallowed my anger and acted like a soap opera actor. I said I missed her terribly, but that work couldn't wait. I said I'd be back soon, that it was just another trip. In fact, I stayed in New York. I parked the truck in a different lot than usual, where no one knew me, and started meeting Susan in strategic places around the city. One day, it was at the mall, another at a popular cafe, another at the church. Door after Sunday Mass. Always in places where there were a lot of people I knew, where people like to notice other people's lives. Susan was smart. She knew how to do her part without exaggerating. She wasn't that vulgar, cheap woman thing. She was subtle, elegant. A touch on the arm during the conversation, a louder laugh when I said something. That way of looking a woman has when she's interested in a man. Little details that anyone watching would notice right away. The plan slowly took shape. Photos circulated on social media, and the two of us appeared together around the city. It didn't take long for the buzz to start. New York is big, but the world of truck drivers is big, and so is that of mechanics. Soon Mark's friends started commenting, and Sarah's neighbors whispered. It was only a matter of time before the bomb exploded. One night, I parked my truck at a gas station on I-95, the one with the good home-cooked food restaurant. Susan came to meet me. We sat at a prominent table, ordered some food, and talked for over 2 hours. It wasn't just pretending. We really got along. We had something to talk about. I could even laugh amidst the painful situation. She told me about her life with Mark, how she had struggled to build the grocery store while he worked in the garage, about their son, a smart boy who was the pride of the family, how she had realized something was wrong in the last few months, but didn't want to believe it was betrayal. I told her about my story with Sarah, about the years on the road, about our dreams of buying a ranch in the Texas. When I retired, it was strange to share these things with a stranger who was now pretending to be my girlfriend. But in a way, Susan understood my pain better than anyone. She was going through the same thing. Betrayal leaves a different mark on our soul. It's like a scar that only those who have won can truly understand. That night, as we said goodbye in the gas station parking lot, a fellow trucker passed by. It was Big Mike, an old road buddy who knew Sarah well. He gave me that mischievous smile and made a comment about how I was in good company. I faked an awkward laugh and introduced Susan as a special friend. I knew that in less than 24 hours, the news would have spread throughout the trucking yard, and from there reached the ears of my wife. And that's exactly what happened the next morning. Sarah called me. Her voice was different, a little shaky, like someone who's holding back tears or anger. She wanted to know where I was, why I hadn't come home yet, if the delivery had taken longer than expected. I answered calmly, as if nothing had happened. Then she dropped the bombshell, ... She had heard that I had been seen with a woman around town. She wanted to know if it was true. I gave a short laugh. I said I didn't owe her an explanation, that I was just enjoying life. She insisted, her voice already altered. She asked who the woman was, what I was doing. That's when I threw the bait. I said she was just a friend, the owner of a small grocery store, who was keeping me company during these lonely days. The silence on the other end of the line was louder than any scream. Sarah knew exactly who I was talking about. She knew Susan. She had shopped at her grocery store before. And worst of all, she knew that Susan was Mark's wife. I hung up saying that I had to work, that we would talk later. The plan was working better than I expected. By now, I'm sure she was already calling her lover, telling him everything, asking what was going on. The mess was set. And now, we were going to add fuel to the fire. That afternoon, I met with Susan again. I told her about the call, how upset Sarah had been. She smiled and said that Mark had come home all pissed off, wanting to know who she was seeing, that he had heard gossip at the garage. The plan was working both ways, folks. We decided to take it even further. Susan invited me to her son's birthday party over the weekend. It was the perfect setting. The whole family together, the child's friends, the neighbors, and the two of us together, as if we were a couple. It was cruel, I know, but no crueler than what they had done to us, Dot. We bought a present for the boy together, a remote control car like the kind every kid dreams of having. We wrapped it up nicely with a card signed by both of us. On the day of the party, I arrived in my truck all washed, in new clothes, with my hair cut. It felt like I was going on a real date. The party was at Susan's house, there in Springfield, in the fully decorated backyard, children running everywhere, adults talking in a circle. When we entered together, arm in arm, I felt everyone's eyes on us. The conversations decreased, the whispers increased. It was exactly what we wanted. Mark was there, of course. He was the birthday boy's father. When he saw me coming in with his wife, his face started to swell. I thought he was going to attack me and make a scene. But Susan had already warned him. If he made a scene, she would tell everyone about his betrayal with Sarah. So he just stood there, swallowing hard, looking like he had eaten and didn't like it. And me? I pretended not to notice the heavy mood. I gave the boy the present, was friendly with everyone, acted as if I were Susan's new boyfriend. It was the strangest afternoon of my life, but also the most rewarding since I had discovered the betrayal. For the first time, I felt like I had regained control of the situation. I was no longer the poor guy, the betrayed one, the sucker. I was the guy who was giving back in kind, without any nastiness. When the party was over, I took Susan home, always in front of everyone. We said goodbye with a long hug and a kiss on the cheek right at her front door. Mark watched everything from inside, probably biting his tongue in anger. I went back to the truck with a sense of mission accomplished. The seed had been planted. Now all I had to do was wait for the fruits. Things started to take off after Susan's son's party. The whole town was already talking about us. There was no way to hide anything anymore. Everyone already knew that Jack, the truck driver, was going out with Susan from the grocery store, Mark, the mechanic's wife. Rumors were spreading faster than a truck going downhill with its brakes off. And I was ready to take the next step. In this story, I decided it was time to show up more with Susan, not just in hidden places, but right in front of everyone's face. On Sunday, I went with her to Mass at the main church in Staten Island. We went in together and sat down among the crowd. When we left, we made sure to greet everyone, as if we were a real couple. We stopped at the bakery and had coffee in the square. New York is big, but it has the soul of a small town at times like these. Everyone knows each other. Everyone notices each other. No truck stop AI-80. The one at the entrance to the city that every truck driver knows. I made a point of filling up the truck with Susan by my side. I talked to the attendants and the other drivers, always introducing her as my special friend. She got right into the game. She smiled, touched my arm, and acted like a woman in love. Deep down, we were even amused by the situation. In the midst of so much pain, it was a relief to be able to laugh at something. Susan was good company. Unlike Sarah, she didn't complain about the trucker's life. She didn't complain about the smell of diesel on my clothes. She didn't mind the phone calls in the middle of the night. On the contrary, she seemed to admire what I did. She said she always respected truck drivers, that she knew we were the lifeblood of America. A woman like that deserved better than a cheating husband. That same week, I took her to a steakhouse on the side of the road where truck drivers usually stop. The owner, Mr. Tony, had known me for years. When I walked in with Susan, his eyes widened. He knew very well that I was married to Sarah, but he didn't say anything. He just smiled at the corner of his mouth. We ordered a steak and a beer and stayed there talking until late. Meanwhile, Sarah kept calling me. Her phone sounded like it was going to catch fire. When I answered, she asked a bunch of questions. Where was I? Who was I with? Why wasn't I coming home? I answered everything in a cursory manner, saying that I was working, that life was busy. She didn't buy the story, of course. She probably already knew everything, but she wanted to hear it from me. One day, she couldn't take it anymore and exploded on the phone. She started yelling, asking if I was cheating on her with Susan, that everyone in town was talking about it, that she was embarrassing herself. That's when I dropped the bombshell. In the calmest voice in the world, I replied that I was just having fun, just like her. The silence on the other end of the line was so intense that for a moment, I thought the line had been disconnected. Then she started crying, a nervous, desperate cry. She asked what I was implying with that, and pretended not to understand, as if she didn't know anything. I just repeated, I was doing the same as you, having fun with whoever I wanted. She hung up on me. Minutes later, the cell phone rang again. It was Mark, the mechanic. He was nervous. He wanted to know what was going on between me and his wife. I laughed and told him that he knew very well what was going on, that he should look at his own ass before coming to demand satisfaction. He threatened me, said he was going to beat me up, that I was destroying his family. I hung up without answering. The next day, Susan called me, all upset. Mark had come home furious, broken some things, and made a scene in front of their son. He accused her of cheating on him with the truck driver and said that everyone at the garage was making fun of him because of the woman who was dating a truck driver. Susan threw it in his face that she knew everything about him and Sarah. It was a huge fight. She ended up taking the boy and going to sleep at his mother's house. Things were getting too serious. For a moment, I thought about backing out, telling Susan the truth, telling her that we should stop this revenge before someone got really hurt. But when I remembered the scene between Sarah and Mark on my couch, the anger came back with a vengeance. They hadn't thought about the consequences when they decided to cheat, so why should I think about it now? We continued with the plan. Susan came home after Mark apologized, swore he would change, that he loved her and their son. She pretended to believe him, but she kept meeting me in secret. It wasn't for revenge anymore. It was because we had really become friends. We supported in this crazy situation. The city was buzzing with the story. The truck drivers in the yard talked about nothing else. Jack, who had always been an exemplary man, married for so many years to the same woman, was now going out with the mechanic's wife. And the mechanic, in turn, was having an affair with Jack's wife. It was a Mexican soap opera in full swing. Brooklyn. Sarah tried to talk to me a few more times. One of them, she was clearly drunk. She cried, begged, said she loved me, that she didn't know what had happened to me. At no point did she admit to cheating. It seemed like in her mind, I was the one who was wrong in the story. This only increased my desire to follow through with the plan until the end. And the next step? The next step would be something that would make the entire city certain of what was happening. Without any room for doubt, Susan and I agreed to go to a famous country music bar in Nashville, Tennessee on Saturday night. It was a place where everyone went, including the people from the garage where Mark worked. I was sure that the story would be on everyone's lips the next day. I got all dressed up, put on a new shirt, and put on perfume. When I got to the grocery store to pick her up, Susan was beautiful. Red dress, hair done, and makeup done. For a moment, I even forgot that it was all just pretend. The bar was packed. Loud music, people dancing, cold beer. We walked in hand, greeting everyone along the way. I saw some acquaintances, other truck drivers, customers from her little grocery store. Everyone looked at me with that look on their face that they were seeing something they shouldn't. We danced the night away. Susan knew how to dance country music beautifully. She took me, guided me, didn't let me make a fool of myself. We laughed a lot, drank a little, pretended to be the happiest couple in the room. In the middle of the night, one of Mark's friends showed up. He stared at us from afar with a sour expression. I was sure that the next day he would already be telling the traitorous mechanic everything. When we got back, it was almost dawn. I left Susan at the door of the house and went back to the yard where I had parked the truck. I was tired, but with a sense of accomplishment. The plan was working better than I expected. Sarah must have been climbing the walls with jealousy, and so was Mark. The two who had betrayed me were now getting a taste of their own medicine. The next day, early in the morning, I received a message from Susan. Mark had arrived home in the early hours of the morning, completely drunk. He made a huge scene, saying that everyone at the garage was making fun of him because his wife was going out with a truck driver. He threatened to hit her, but his son woke up to the yelling and he ended up calming down. Susan was scared, thinking about going back to her mother's house. I told her to stay calm, that Mark was just a braggart and that he wasn't going to do anything. But deep down, I was worried too. Revenge was getting too dangerous. It was time to sort this out, to put an end to this whole show. That's when I made up my mind. I was going to confront Sarah face to face. I was going to lay everything I knew on the table, make her admit to cheating, show her that I wasn't a fool. And then I would move on with my life, far from her, far from that city that now only brought back bad memories. I sent her a message, asking to talk. I said that we needed to work things out, that we couldn't go on like this anymore. She replied right away, all anxious, saying that she also really wanted to talk, that we needed to save our marriage. Little did she know that there was no marriage left to save. The confrontation was set, and this time I wasn't going to back down. The truth would come out, and it would be like a bolt from the blue dot. It wasn't even 2 days after that show in Nashville, and the bomb went off once and for all. I was there, quiet in my corner, doing maintenance on the truck in the shipping company's yard in Jersey City. It was a Sunday morning. The sun was hot, the kind that only summer there can do. I had just changed the oil. My hands were covered in grease, and I was sweating like a damned man. That's when I saw that familiar car pulling into the yard. A red Ford Focus that I had bought for Sarah last year. My heart skipped a beat. I knew the moment of truth was coming. I continued what I was doing, pretending I hadn't even seen it. But inside, man, I was boiling hotter than an engine on a long hill. She parked near the guardhouse and came towards me. From a distance, I could see that her eyes were swollen from crying so much. She was wearing a simple dress, her hair tied up, and no makeup. It was very different from the well-dressed woman I had seen with Mark that day. The other truck drivers who were in the yard soon noticed the mood. They slowly moved away, giving everyone space, but staying close enough so as not to miss any of the commotion. News travels fast in a truck yard. Everyone already knew the story. Sarah came closer, her eyes already filled with tears. She began to speak softly, asking why I was doing this to her, why I was going out with Susan, if I didn't think about our history, our years together. She spoke and cried at the same time, making that scene that a woman knows how to do when she wants to win over a man. I stayed quiet, just listening. I wiped my hands on an old rag and slowly closed the hood of the truck. She kept saying louder and louder that she loved me, that everything could be resolved, that we needed to talk. Then she asked the question I was waiting for. She wanted to know if it was true that I was having an affair with Susan, if I was cheating on her. The word cheating came out of her mouth as if it were the most absurd thing in the world, as if she were a saint, as if she had never done anything wrong. That's when I couldn't take it anymore. I looked her straight in the eyes and blurted it all out. I asked her if she had the moral authority to talk about cheating, if she was ashamed to come and demand fidelity from me. I told her that she had torn apart any respect I had on the couch in our house with Mark. Her face changed immediately. It went white as a sheet. She tried to deny it, saying I was crazy, that she didn't know what I was talking about. But her eyes gave it all away. Pure guilt. I then told her that I had seen everything that day, that I had come back early to surprise her, that I had seen her with the mechanic at our house, that since that day, my heart had turned to stone. She burst into tears, the desperate tears of someone who knows they have been caught red-handed. She began to explain herself, saying that it had only been a one-time thing, that it had been a weakness, that Mark had insisted so much. The usual excuses of someone who cheats and is found out. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. 20 years of history can't be erased like that. But then I remembered everything I had been through in those weeks. The pain, the humiliation, the sleepless nights in the cab. She hadn't thought about any of that when she was in the mechanic's arms. I then asked her if she really wanted to talk. She nodded, wiping away her tears. That was when I dropped the bombshell. I asked her if she had enjoyed tasting her own medicine, if she had enjoyed finding out that her husband was seeing another woman, if she had enjoyed being cheated on like she had cheated on me. She was confused for a moment, but then she understood everything. That Susan and I had set it all up, that it was just a plan to make her feel what I felt. The penny dropped all at once. She started yelling, saying that I was cruel, that I had played with her feelings, that was not something you should do. I just laughed. A humorless laugh, like someone who's too tired to care. I asked her if she'd thought about my feelings when she was in our bed with Mark. The people in the courtyard had already gathered around, watching everything as if it were a soap opera. I didn't care. Let them see it all. Let them hear it all. He had nothing left to hide. Sarah tried to hug me, saying that we could get over it, that it had been a mistake, that she truly loved me. I pushed her away with my arm. He said there was no going back, that it was over, that I would rather spend the rest of my life alone in the car than go back to a woman who didn't respect her own husband. She fell to her knees on the dirt floor of the yard, getting her dress all dirty, crying like a baby. It was a powerful scene that made my chest tighten, but I stood firm. A real man doesn't go back on a decision like that. I told her to get up, that she was making a fool of herself in front of everyone. She should go home, that I would come by in the next few days to get my things. She could keep the apartment. that I didn't want any more of it. She stood up slowly, her eyes red, her face all stained with tears and dust. She asked if I really wasn't going to forgive her, if 20 years weren't worth a second chance. I told her that betrayal can't be forgiven. It can be forgotten, and that I would never be able to forget it. I turned my back and started walking toward the cafeteria in the courtyard. I needed a coffee, some time alone. She stood there, watching. After a while, I heard the sound of her car starting and leaving. The other truck drivers came toward me. Some patted me on the back. Others told me I had done the right thing, that men can't be stupid. Big Mike, who was the oldest of the group, sat next to me in the cafeteria and remained quiet. He didn't need to say anything. The road teaches us that sometimes silence says more than 1,000 words. That night, I slept soundly in the cab like I hadn't slept in weeks. It was like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. There was no more lying, no more pretending. Everything was out in the open now, Doc. And what happened next? This is the part where life starts over again, but in a completely different way. The next day, I called Susan. I told her everything that had happened in the courtyard. She said that Mark had also discovered the truth, that he had been furious at first, but then he burst into tears of regret, that he was begging for forgiveness, saying that he loved her and their son, that he would never cheat again. I asked her what she was going to do. Susan was silent for a moment, then said that she didn't know yet, that she needed to think about her son, her family, the time they had already invested together, that maybe she would give him a second chance, but that nothing would be the same. Again, I respected her decision. Everyone knows where their shoes pinch. Is for me. I had already made up my mind. I was going to pack my things and hit the road for good. I didn't want to hear about Sarah, about home, about married life anymore. The road would be my home now. The entire United States, my backyard. I stopped by the house the next day when I knew Sarah would be working. I grabbed my clothes, my documents, and some souvenirs that were still worth keeping. I left my wedding ring on the table, along with a simple note, "Be happy." I will be. When I closed the door to that house for the last time, I felt a mixture of sadness and relief. A chapter of my life was ending there. It hurt, of course it hurt, but the pain of staying would be much greater. I went back to the yard, threw everything in the truck bed, and started the engine. I had a shipment to Phoenix, Arizona, waiting for me. 2,000 miles of road to think about life, to heal the wounds. Before I left, the phone rang. It was Sarah, begging me once again, saying that she was going to change, that we could start over. I listened in silence and only said one thing, that sometimes love ends. And that ours had ended on that couch with you in the arms of another man. I hung up and threw the truck on the road. Life would move forward, like the wheels of my beast on the highway, without looking back. A week after that scene in the yard, I was returning from a freight Los Angeles, California, loaded with ore. My head was already more settled, but my heart still ached when I remembered everything. In the meantime, Sarah didn't stop calling me, sending me messages. Sometimes she cried, other times she threatened, other times she begged. When a woman wants to win a man back, she will do anything. But I had already decided. That page was turned. That's when I thought about making a final deal. I wasn't satisfied with that conversation in the courtyard. I still had a lot of things stuck in my throat, a lot of words stuck in my throat. I wanted to look her straight in the eyes, tell her everything I felt, make her understand the extent of the damage she had done to my life. And I wanted to do it in a place where I felt safe, where I had my road companions nearby. I called her on a Tuesday. I asked to meet her at Pete's Roadhouse, that roadside bar that every truck driver in the country knows. He said we needed to talk properly, sort out the details of the separation, resolve the pending issues. She accepted immediately, thinking it was a chance to win me back. Little did she know what was in store for her. Pete's Roadhouse is a simple but welcoming place for the road folks. It has a restaurant with good food, cold beer, and Pete, the owner of the place, who knows everyone by name. Many trucker stories have been told at those wooden tables under that metal roof. I arrived early and warned Pete that the conversation would be intense. He understood right away and put me at a table further away, but from where I could see the entrance. He asked 2 security guards to keep an eye on me, in case things got heated. That night, several of my road buddies were there. Big Mike, Old Man Joe, Texas Tim, all longtime friends who had heard the whole story. When Sarah walked into the bar, she looked like a different person. She was all dressed up, with her hair done, makeup done, and a new dress, trying to win. Me back with her looks, as if that were the problem. The truckers at the other tables stopped talking for a moment. They all knew who she was, what she had done. She felt the weight of their stares, but she walked straight toward me, pretending not to notice. She sat down across from me with a nervous smile. She ordered a water. She started talking about trivial things, the weather, the city, as if she was afraid to get to the main topic. I let her talk for a while. I took a sip of beer. I took a deep breath. And then I cut the crap. I told her that I had arranged that meeting for one reason only. I wanted her to know the whole truth. I wanted her to understand what she had done to me, the depth of the wound she had opened, and I wanted her to know everything without mincing words. I started by telling her about the day I came home early, wanting to surprise her on our wedding anniversary, how I saw her with Mark through the window, the shock, the pain, the world falling apart, how I went back to the truck without saying anything, with my heart in pieces. She tried to interrupt, deny, make excuses. I raised my hand for silence. I said I wasn't done yet, that I wanted her to hear everything. Then I told her about the plan, how I met Susan, how we decided to get even, that everything she saw, heard, imagined was just an act, that there was never anything between Susan and me other than a friendship born of shared pain, that everything was planned to make her feel what I felt. Her eyes filled with tears again, but this time it wasn't that manipulative cry from before. It was a cry of shame, of someone who finally understands the gravity of what she did. Then she finally admitted it. He confessed that yes, he had cheated on me with Mark, that it wasn't just once like I had said before, that it had been going on for a few months, that it started when I went on those longer trips, when I would be away, for weeks at a time, that she felt lonely, that he paid attention, that one thing led to another. I listened to it all in silence. Each word was like a knife stuck in my chest, but at least now it was the truth. No more lies, no more pretense. I asked her if it had been worth it, if throwing away 20 years of history because of an affair with a married mechanic would have been worth it. She lowered her head without answering. She didn't need to. The answer was right in front of her face. I then told her that Susan had decided to give Mark a second chance, that she had thought about her son, her family, and the time she had invested, that maybe they could rebuild something from the ashes. Sarah looked up hopefully. She thought I was giving her a hint that I was also considering going back. I immediately cut off hope. I said that everyone has their limit, and that mine had been crossed, and there was no turning back, that I could no longer look at her without seeing the scene from that day, that I would rather be alone for the rest of my life than return to a relationship without trust. She cried harder. The truck drivers at the other tables pretended not to look, but I knew they were watching everything. Pete came by and asked if everything was okay, if I needed anything. I shook my head. I needed to finish that conversation alone. Sarah tried. One last trick. She talked about our past, the plans we had, the love we felt. She said we could start over, that time heals everything, that forgiveness sets us free. All those cliches we hear when someone wants a second chance after doing something stupid. Look, I know this story touches us, right? And if you've made it this far, it's because you're enjoying it. So before I reveal the grand finale of this journey, take a second and like this video. It's super important for YouTube to show this story to more people who need to hear it. It costs nothing, and it helps me a lot. Thanks. I looked deep into her eyes, those same eyes that had enchanted me 20 years ago at a county fair in Springfield. Those eyes that I saw so many times looking at me with love when I was coming back from the road. The same eyes that now begged for forgiveness. I said that yes, time heals everything. That yes, forgiveness sets you free. But that some things, when they break, cannot be fixed. That our marriage was one of those things. That she would always have a place in my memory, in my good times, but that she could no longer have a place in my life. I got up, paid the bill, and said goodbye. I told her I was going to continue my life on the road, but I was going to send the divorce papers through my lawyer, that I wanted her to be truly happy. She sat there crying softly, without the strength to get up or stop me. When I passed the other tables, my fellow truck drivers looked at me with respect. No one said anything, but everyone understood. On the road, you learn that some loads are too heavy to carry, that sometimes you need to unload and continue on your journey lighter. Big Mike stood up and gave me a big hug, the kind that only a man who has suffered knows how to give. No words, just a gesture. Texas Tim offered me a ride to the patio, but I preferred to walk. I needed to feel the night air, to get my thoughts in order. When I left the bar, I looked back one last time. Sarah was still there, sitting alone at the table, her glass of water untouched in front of her. A beautiful woman who I once loved more than anything in life. Now, just a stranger. Someone who had been through my story and would follow a different path. I walked slowly back to the patio. The night was clear, full of stars. The kind of night you see a lot on the road when you're driving at dawn and stop on the shoulder of a road to admire the sky. I felt a strange peace, as if I had finally let go of a weight I had been carrying for weeks. The next day, I took a freight to Chicago, Illinois, 2,500 miles away. The further away from New York, the better. I needed new air, new landscapes, new horizons. The road has always been my best therapy, and now it would be my real home. Before leaving, I sent one last message to Susan, thanking her for everything and wishing her strength in rebuilding her family. She responded with affection, saying that I would always have a friend in Queens if I ever wanted to return. An unlikely friendship, born of pain, but that had helped me overcome the worst moment of my life. I started the engine, adjusted the mirrors, and pulled onto the interstate. The road opened up before me like an invitation. A trucker, his truck, and thousands of miles ahead. Life goes on, always forward, like wheels on asphalt. It's been 6 months since that night in Pete's Roadhouse. 6 months traveling around this country nonstop, taking freight after freight, getting to know new places, meeting different people. The road is like that. The more you travel, the more you find yourself. It's as if each mile were washing our soul, taking a little bit of the pain away. Today, I'm here in the back of my Freightliner, stopped at a gas station on I-70, on the border of Colorado with Kansas. I just delivered a load of soybeans, and I'm waiting for the next call. The sunset in this region is a divine thing. The sky turns orange, then purple, then stars. It's at these moments that we stop to think about life, what's left behind and what's yet to come. I won't lie to you. Fellow travelers, it still hurts to think about Sarah. 20 years don't disappear like that, overnight. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night with the memory of her. Sometimes I pick up my phone to send a message out of habit and remember that we no longer have anything. It's like losing a piece of yourself, but the pain is no longer the same. It no longer bleeds like it used to. The divorce was quick. She didn't contest anything. She didn't want to fight in court. She kept the house. I kept the truck, which had always been my faithful partner. Even though we split the money I had in the account, I gave her her share without argument. I didn't want anything that would remind me of that life, of that lie I had lived for so long. I heard from mutual friends that she's living with Mark now. Apparently, Susan didn't give him the second chance she said she would. She ended up sending him away for good after catching him cheating again. A man who cheats once, cheats again. It's like a dog that catches a chicken. There's no way around it. Now the two traitors are together, building a life on top of a story that started off wrong. I don't wish him any harm, but I also don't believe it will work out. Speaking of Susan, we still talk from time to time. She sold the grocery store, took her son, and moved to Seattle, Washington, to be close to her family. She started a new life, far from bad memories. A warrior woman, one of those who life doesn't hurt. Who knows, maybe one day our paths won't cross again, this time without plans for revenge, without resentment in between. Just two friends who met in pain, but who can meet again in joy. As for me, I'm following my own path. The road has become my home for good. I no longer have a fixed address. I no longer have a routine other than traveling. I carry the United States on my back, and I take a little bit of myself with me wherever I go. There are days when it's hard, when loneliness is overwhelming, when I wish I had someone waiting for me somewhere. But there are days when it's liberating. No demands, no expectations, no disappointments. One thing I learned during this phase of my life was to take better care of myself. When I was driving, I started to always carry a bottle of tea, the kind my grandmother taught me to make. Chamomile. Tea to calm my nerves after a long day. Mint to help me sleep better on sleepless nights. Ginger to help me digest that heavy meal at the gas station. These natural remedies were my companions on lonely nights, helping me keep my body healthy, while my heart healed. If you're curious about these teas that save us on the road, I've left a link in the description. Simple things, but they make all the difference when you spend days away from home, with a tired body and a racing mind. The cab of this truck has seen it all. It has seen me cry like a child in the first weeks after the separation. It has seen me curse the whole world in fits of rage when the memory of the betrayal came back too strong. It has seen me drink until I collapsed at gas stations, trying to drown my sorrow. But it has also seen me reborn little by little, day after day, mile after mile. It's funny how life changes in the blink of an eye. If someone had told me a year ago that I would be here, alone, divorced, homeless, I wouldn't have believed it. I thought I had my whole life planned out. Sarah and I were going to grow old together, buy that ranch we'd always dreamed of, raise some animals, live in peace. But life has these twists and turns, and we only find out what we're made of when the storm hits. I discovered that I'm stronger than I thought, that I can start over even when it seems like the world is ending, that the pain goes away, that the wound heals, even if it leaves a mark. I also discovered who my true friends are, those who stood by me in my darkest moments, who listened to me without judging me, who gave me a hand when I needed it most. Big Mike was one of those. A true roots old truck driver, the kind who knows every pothole and every road in this country. He was the one who welcomed me in the early days, who offered me a shoulder to cry on, who gave me the best advice. He was also the one who encouraged me to keep going, to not get discouraged, to not do stupid things. I remember him saying, "Jack, the road is like life. It has curves, potholes, ups and downs. But if you know how to drive, you will reach your destination. And your destination is not to stop here in this pain. It is to keep going until you find peace. And that's what I'm doing. Keeping going, one day at a time, 1 mile at a time. Number. Rush, no anxiety, just letting time do its job, which is to heal wounds and bring new opportunities. The message I leave for you, fellow travelers, is this: take care of those who are waiting for you at home. Value those who stay awake waiting for you to come back. Pay attention, call, send a message. Show that even though you're far away, you're thinking. Because the road is lonely, and no one deserves to be betrayed after so long. But if betrayal still happens, like it did to me, don't lower yourself. Don't act like a fool. Show that you have value, that you have dignity. Do the same as I did. Give back in kind. Show what it's like to feel the pain of betrayal. And then go on your way with your head held high, without looking back. Today, I continue on the road lighter, wiser, stronger. The wound is still there, but it no longer bleeds. Who knows what fate has in store for me in the future? Maybe another companion, someone who values a man on the road. Maybe solitude for a while longer, until I'm ready to trust again. Or maybe just this: me, my truck, and this endless road. The sun has already set completely. The first stars begin to appear in the sky. Kansas. In a little while, I'll make some coffee in the cab, eat something, and go to bed early. Tomorrow there's more road ahead of me, more cargo to carry, more life to live. The story I told you today doesn't have a happy ending like in a soap opera. It has a real ending of a real person, of a man who works hard and sometimes gets hurt along the way. But it has an ending worthy of someone who didn't let himself be made a fool of, who faced the pain head on and came out on top. I'm Jack, 42 years old, 20 of them on the road. That was my story. Now it's time to move on, because the United States is big and life never stops. A hug to all of you who accompanied so far. And remember, on the road of life, the important thing is not to not fall. It's knowing how to get up after you fall. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so we can continue this journey together and get the next load of stories. Until the next video, yeah.